Hey, what is up guys? Josh here, and it has been 6 months now since the release of the 2019 13-inch MacBook Pro, so here's my 6-month review. So the spec that I went for was one up from the base model, which starts at $1,499, and it comes with the quad-core Intel i5 processor with turbo boost up to 3.9 GHz, a 256GB SSD, 8GB of RAM, the Intel Iris Plus 645 graphics, and 2 Thunderbolt 3 USB-C ports. Now let's talk about the performance, because that is probably the biggest reason to get a Pro version of any kind of laptop. So I typically test my performance by how it runs the programs that I use on a daily basis, but just to get this out of the way, I ran some tests using Cinebench and Geekbench 5. So on Geekbench 5, it ran a single core score of 950 and a multi-core score of 3863. And on Cinebench, it got a score of 1543 when running all cores. To really test out the performance, I put together this 4-minute 4K video edit in Final Cut Pro and exported it using compressor in just 4 minutes and 44 seconds, so only a bit longer than it would have taken to actually watch the video. If you are a professional video editor that edits long 4K footage and color grades, then I would suggest the 16-inch MacBook Pro, but for the average person who maybe edits a few short YouTube videos and exports to H.264, this is plenty. Now, if you tried the same thing in Adobe Premiere Pro, I can almost guarantee you that you will not get even close to the same results, and that's because applications like Final Cut Pro are optimized to run on the macOS system. So if you use a lot of Adobe products like Premiere Pro or After Effects, then that would be another reason to look at a higher spec Mac or PC. As far as battery life goes, I usually get about 4 to 6 hours on high brightness when I'm doing light tasks like browsing or streaming 1080p YouTube videos, but when editing 4K video or even streaming in 4K, the battery drains pretty quick, so I usually keep it plugged in. Next is the display. So this is a 13.3-inch Retina display, and for me it is the best screen that I've ever used on any laptop. It has a resolution of 2560 by 1600 pixels, so really good pixel density, but what stands out most for me is the color accuracy when doing things like video and photo editing. At 500 nits of brightness, it is also one of the brightest displays that you can find on a laptop. Of course, the one drawback is that there isn't much screen real estate, which is a pain when using stuff like Final Cut Pro or Xcode, or any other apps that have a lot of menus that take up space. So I usually hook up to an external monitor when I'm using those applications. Now, for the previous generation, the Touch Bar with Touch ID did not come on the base model version, but it now comes standard on all MacBook Pros, even the base $1,299 version. The Touch ID is really nice to have and lets you unlock your device with the tap of a finger, easily access any stored passwords that you have, and even make purchases using Apple Pay. I would still really like to see Face Unlock come to the MacBook soon, but we will have to wait until later this year to see what the 2020 MacBooks will look like. The Touch Bar is also a nice feature, but I find that I still don't really use it a lot other than just to adjust the screen brightness and volume. It also eliminates the function keys, so if you are someone who uses those, that's another thing to think about before buying this. We also get the refreshed butterfly keyboard that has worked flawlessly in the 6 months that I've owned the laptop. I should also note that I came from the 2018 MacBook Air, and I also didn't have any issues with that keyboard, so I guess I've been lucky so far, but do keep in mind that this model is still covered under the Apple Keyboard Replacement Program, so if it does have any issues, you can get it replaced. I really like the shallow key travel on this MacBook, but it's not for everyone, and it's also one of the reasons for the laptop being so thin. The Force Touch Trackpad is still one of the best that I've ever used, and its size makes it really easy to use the multi-touch gestures. Of course, this is not a mechanical trackpad, but it rather uses force sensors and a taptic engine to generate what feels like a click. So the speakers are under the grills on both sides of the keyboard, and they sound really great. Pretty much what you would expect out of laptop speakers in 2019, and are good if you're listening to music or streaming videos, but I wouldn't use them in a pro sense to monitor audio or anything like that. Now, one of the main reasons that I got the 13-inch MacBook Pro over one of the bigger models was for portability. Because of its size and weight, I can easily unplug it from my desktop, throw it in a bag, and go. It comes in at 0.59 inches thick and weighs just over 3 pounds. I find that the 15 and 16-inch models are fine when using on a desktop, and the extra screen real estate is nice to have, but when sitting on my lap or carrying it around in a bag, it feels a bit bulky. Next, I want to talk about the build quality. This is still the most premium feeling laptop that I have ever owned. There is almost no keyboard or body flex like you get in a lot of PCs. The screen feels really solid, and the dark aluminum design just looks great. I do wish the bezels around the screen were a bit thinner, but overall it's still one of the best looking laptops that I've seen. Of course, this laptop is not perfect, and there are a few things that I don't like about it. First, we only get the 2 USB-C ports on the side, so a dongle is a must-have, especially if you're like me and still use SD cards and standard USB cables, or you need an HDMI output. It's your only option. I got this one by Dodocool. That has worked great for me so far. You get 3 standard USB ports, an HDMI out, micro and SD card slots, and a single USB-C port that can also be used for charging. So if you want to check that out, I'll drop a link in the description down below this video. I also find that my touch bar occasionally freezes and will only come back after closing the screen. Not sure if this is something that can be solved with a software update, but at the time of posting this video, it's still an issue for me. And as I talked about previously in this video, performance is great when running native apps, but when using some third-party applications like Premiere Pro and After Effects, it tends to struggle sometimes, which is not what you would expect in a pro model of a laptop. So if you are looking at picking up one of these for yourself, I would at least recommend upgrading from the 128GB base model, as you can't upgrade the storage after the fact and it'll fill up very quickly. And it would be a good idea to order some kind of a dongle because you will eventually need it. If you want to save a few $100s, you can even find these refurbished on the Apple Store. You essentially get a new laptop that had some kind of an issue that Apple fixed, and it comes with the same warranty you would get on a brand new one. So that wraps up my 6-month review of the 2019 13-inch MacBook Pro. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, then be sure to smash that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.